Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies. And this is Accepted from Encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Albert G. Mackey. Accepted. The Worshipful Company of Masons of the City of London, a flourishing guild at the present day, possesses as its earliest document now existing an account book headed 1620. The account of James Gilder, Mr. Master, William Ward, and John Abraham, wardens of the Company of Freemasons within the City of London, beginning the first day of July, 1619, and ending the day of July 1620, of all receipt and payment for, and to the use the same company as followeth, viz. From the entries in this book, it appears that besides the ordinary freeman and liveryman of this company, there were other members who are termed in the books the Accepted Masons, and that they belonged to a body known as the Excepcon, or Exception, which was an inner fraternity of speculative Masons. Thus, in the year 1620, the following entry is found. They charged themselves also with money received of the persons hereafter, named for their gratitude at their acceptance into livery, viz. Here follow 6 names. And among the accounts for the next year, 1621, there is an entry showing sums received from several persons, of whom 2 are mentioned in the entry of 1620, at the Making Masons. And as all these mentioned were already members of the company, something further must be meant by this. In 1631, the following entry of the clerk's expenses occurs. PD in going abroad, and at a meeting at the hall about ye Masons, yet were to be accepted. Now the company never accepted its members. They were always admitted in the freedom either by apprenticeship, patrimony, or redemption. Thus the above entry suggests that persons who were neither connected with the trade nor otherwise qualified were required, before being eligible for election on the livery of the company, to become accepted Masons. That is, to join the lodge of speculative masonry that was held for that purpose in the company's hall. Thus, in the accounts for 1650, payments are entered as made by several persons for coming on the livery and admission upon acceptance of masonry. And it is entered that Mr. Andrew Marvin, that present warden, and another pay 20 shillings each for coming on the Excepcon, while 2 others are entered as paying 40 shillings each for the like. And as the name of the last 2 cannot be found among the members of the Masons' Company, it would seem as if it was possible for strangers to join the Excepcon on paying double fees. Unfortunately, no books connected with the exception, or lodge as it may be called, have been preserved, but there are references to it in several places in the account books, which show that the payments made by newly accepted Masons were paid into the funds of the company, that some or all of this amount was spent on a banquet and the attendant expenses, and that any further sum required was paid out of the ordinary funds of the company, proving that the company had entire control of the lodge and its funds. Further evidence of the existing of this symbolical lodge within the Masons' Company is given by the following entry in an inventory of the company's property made in 1665. Item: the names of the accepted Masons in a fair enclosed frame with lock and key, and in an inventory of 1676 is found. Item: 1 book of the constitutions of the accepted Masons. No doubt this was a copy of one of the old charges. A fair large table of the accepted Masons, and proof positive of its existence is derived from an entry in the diary of Elias Ashmole, the famous antiquary, who writes, March 10, 1682, about 5 p.m., I received a summons to appear at a lodge to be held next day at Mason's Hall, London. March 11th. Accordingly, I went, and at about noon was admitted into the Fellowship of Freemasons. Sir William Wilson Knight, Captain Rich Borthwick, Mr. Will Woodman, Mr. W.M. Gray, Mr. Samuel Taylor, and Mr. William Wise. I was the senior fellow among them. it being 35 years since I was admitted. He then mentions the names of 9 others who were present and concludes, "We all dined at the Half Moon Tavern in Cheapside, at a noble dinner prepared at the charge of the new accepted Masons. All present were members of the Masons Company except Ashmole himself, Sir W. Wilson, and Captain Borthwick." And this entry proves conclusively that side by side with the Masons Company, there existed another organization to which non-members of the company were admitted and the members of which were known as accepted Masons. It may here be mentioned that Ashmole has recorded in his diary that he was made a Freemason at Warrington in Lancashire on October 16, 1646. In that entry, the word accepted does not occur. No mention is made of the accepted Masons in the accounts of the Masons Company after 1677, when £6, the balance remaining of the last accepted Masons' money, was ordered to be laid out for a new banner. And it would seem from that time onward the lodge kept separate accounts, for from the evidence of Ashmole's diary, we know it was at work in 1682. But when and why it finally ceased, no evidence is forthcoming to show. However, it may fairly be assumed that this Masons Hall Lodge had ceased to exist before the revival of Freemasonry in 1717, or else Anderson would not have said in the Constitutions of 1723, page 82, "It is generally believed that the said company, i.e., the London Company of Freemen Masons, is descended of the ancient fraternity, and that in former times no man was made free of that company until he was installed in some lodge of free and accepted Masons, as necessary qualification, but that laudable practice seems to have been long in destitute, which passage would indicate that he was aware of some tradition of such a lodge as has been described attached to the Masons Company, admitting persons in no way operatively connected with the craft, who were called accepted Masons, to distinguish them from the operative or Freemasons." Anderson, in the 1738 Constitutions, quotes from a copy of the old Constitutions some regulations which he says were made in 1663, and in which the phrases "accepted a Freemason" and "acceptation" occurred several times. These regulations are found in what is known as the Grand Lodge Manuscript No. 2, which is supposed to have been written about the middle of the 17th century, so that Anderson's date in which he follows the Robert's Old Constitutions printed in 1722 as to the year, though he changes the date from December 8th to December 27th, may quite possibly be correct. And Brother Condor calls special attention to these regulations on account of the singular resemblance that one of them bears to the rules that govern the Masons Company. The extracts given above from the books of the Masons Company, the 1663 regulations, if that date be accepted, and the quotation from Ashmole's diary are the earliest known instances of the term accepted Masons, for although the Inigo Jones manuscript is headed "The Ancient Constitutions of the Free and Accepted Masons, 1607, yet there is a consensus of opinion among experts that such a date is impossible and that the manuscript is really to be referred to the end of the 17th century or even the beginning of the 18th. And the next instance of the use of the term is in 1686, when Dr. Plott, in the Natural History of Stanford Shrine, writes with reference to secret signs used by the Freemasons of his time. "If any man appear, though altogether unknown, that can show any of these signs to a fellow of the society, whom they otherwise call an accepted Mason, he is obliged presently to come to him from what company or place soever he be in, nay, though from the top of the steeple." Further, in 1691, John Aubrey, author of the Natural History of Wiltshire, made a note in his manuscript. "This day, being May 18, 1691, is a great convention at the St. Paul's Church of the Fraternity of the Freemasons, in which he has erased the word free and substituted accepted, which, however, he changed into adopted in his fair copy. In the orders to be observed by the company and fellows of Freemasons at a lodge held at Allenwick, September 29, 1701, being the gin head meeting day, we find, there shall no apprentice after he have served 7 years be admitted or accepted, but upon the feast of St. Michael the Archangel. And from that time onward, the term accepted Masons becomes common, usually in connection with free. The term free and accepted Masons thus signifying both the operative members who were free of their guild and the speculative members who had been accepted as outsiders. Thus the Roberts print of 1722 is headed, "The old constitutions belonging to the ancient and honorable society of free and accepted Masons." And in the constitutions of 1723, Anderson speaks of wearing the badge of a free and accepted Mason, page 48, and uses the phrase in Rule 27, though he does not use the phrase so frequently as in the 1738 edition, in which the charges of a Freemason become the old charges of the free and accepted Masons. The general regulations become the general regulations of the free and accepted Masons, and regulation number 5, no man can be made or admitted a member, becomes no man can be accepted a member, while the title of the book is The New Book of Constitutions of the Ancient and Honorable Fraternity of Free and Accepted Masons, instead of the Constitutions of the Freemasons, as in the earlier edition. ELH. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.